Welcome back to Muay Thai Radio. Once again, I'm your host, Liam Tarrant, with my co-host and colleague, as always, Mr. Owen Bowness.
Thank you. Hey, Liam.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm hanging in, you know.
What else can you say? Keeping alive. All right. Today we have a very special guest with us. He is known as El Presidente, the Soul Assassin, Mr. Kevin Ross.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hanging in, you know.
Yeah.
If you hear us say fuck, that means we're stopping and we have to go back and edit, so.
All right.
So, Kevin, the last fans saw you was at, if they didn't see you in the front rows at Lion Fight 17 in Foxwoods Casino, they saw you at Lion Fight 16. How have you been since that Michael Thompson fight?
I've been great, man. You know, just eating a lot, just recovering. You know, my rib's still pretty messed up. So I've been doing my best to rest and let it heal. But, I still only took like a week off from the gym, so that hasn't really helped it heal up too quickly. But I can't really stay away, you know.
I hear you. Do you prefer to get right back in and right back to work, huh?
Always, man. You know, especially when it comes to fighting. I can't deal with big, long breaks, you know. Obviously, I'm not like a 12-year-old kid. You know, I don't have 20 years more to do this. So I'm trying to get as many fights in as I can and stay as busy as I can. But at the same time, you know, you gotta stay as healthy as you can, or else I won't be fighting for very long.
Yeah, now going into a fight like that Michael Thompson fight, which was for that Lion Fight world title, getting the rib injury so close to that, it's just business as usual, huh? Doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't my first injury going into a fight. I mean, I've had a pretty long list of serious injuries going into fights, but that was one of the bigger ones going into, obviously, the biggest fight of my career, you know, and to be at this stage in my career, to have such a serious injury like that happen right before this giant fight that was about to go down, it was, it was hard to deal with, and it was hard to kind of figure out what I was going to do. You know, I was stuck in bed for basically 2 days. I couldn't move because I was in so much pain. So it was a hard couple of days there till I made up my mind.
The Thompson fight was, that was fantastic, man. Did you, I mean, it seemed like you were clicking on all cylinders, and the head movement was really, really good, and you were finding angles, and same with the Mosseri fight. Is being at CSA just hitting a different level for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm working on a lot of things that I never did before, or that I did, but having a coach I haven't had a coach since 2009. You know, that's when I left Toddy, so I've been basically coachless since then. You know, I've had great training partners, I've had great pad holders, but I've never had anybody that like looking out for me or watching over my career. I mean, I pretty much had to do everything, you know, and just be very self-sustained. So having Kieran watch out for me, not only training me, but really covering all the aspects of my career has really helped. And, you know, those first few fights back, coming off the injury and being at a new gym, you know, it took some time to kind of get back to where I was, and even better. You know, there was a lot of bugs that needed to get worked out, and a lot of things that I was working on, you know, playing around with as far as technique and stuff. But these last two fights, everything kind of came together.
Why would you stay in a situation like that, leaving Toddy? And were you just comfortable in Vegas, or you were okay with your training, or?
It was one of those things where there just wasn't anywhere else to go. Obviously, there's other good gyms in the country, but not to the point where I'm gonna pack up my stuff and move over there. You know, if I was gonna go anywhere, I was gonna go overseas. So it was kind of just one of those things where I was stuck there. You know, I was like, I'm gonna be here. You know, I still have really great training partners. All my friends are out there. You know, all the guys I came up with. You know, I still had good pad holding and stuff like that. So there wasn't any options really. You know.
Right. Speaking of overseas, you spent a lot of time at Sitmonchai.
Yeah.
Does that change anything with your rhythm or your strategies going into fights, spending time with those guys as opposed to spending time with Kieran at CSA?
You know, it's only ever changed my style of fighting when I fight in Thailand, but I think that it has more to do with just like my mindset going into fights over there and like kind of wanting to fight a little more Thai style just from being over there, which always annoys me, and I've always hated almost every fight I've had in Thailand. Of course, I mean I hate all my fights anyway, so that isn't really saying a lot. So, it can be good and bad. I definitely go over there and kind of sharpen up some things maybe that I don't work on as much over here. So it's a nice little change, and going back and forth is really beneficial to me.
You mentioned something interesting back there about you've had a lot of pad holders, but having a coach is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like people get mixed up between someone being a pad holder, some being a placeholder almost. But what's the difference in your mind between somebody just being there holding and somebody there to coach you? What's that distinction?
For me, like I said, I had a really good pad holder, so he was, I was still working on some technical things and stuff like that, but I didn't have anybody watching out for my career, like talking to promoters for me, talking to sponsors for me, making sure I'm doing the right fights. I'm just doing what I think's best, and when you're the one taking care of all that, you're not on the outside looking out at what might be the best for you. You're just obviously I want to fight whenever I want to fight, so I'm fighting whoever, which is just how I've always done it, but it doesn't mean it's always the smartest thing to do. So it's always good to have that outside perspective. I mean, I still am going to fight who I want to fight when I want to fight them, but to have somebody else kind of in my ear saying, hey, this is what we should do, this is what we shouldn't do, but at the end of the day, it's your decision. So it's nice to have somebody watching out for me.
I guess you got enough on your plate just staying in shape and being ready to get in there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like a fighter's job should be to fight, to train, to stay healthy, and that's it. The more you got to worry about, the more distracted you're going to be, even if it's not even that big a deal. But distractions are distractions, and they add up.
Do you think some of those distractions, I mean, coming into the Chris Kwiatkowski fight, you had a year off, or a year and a half, or whatever it was, recovering?
Well, I had 9 months off from surgery, but then I hadn't fought for about 6 months prior to that. So yeah.
And moving.
Uh-huh.
And what else did we just mention? The injury, the move, and finally having a coach.
Yeah.
How did all those storms collide? Was that a really difficult transition for you?
I wouldn't say it was really difficult. It was definitely a lot of things all at once, and it kind of took me a while to get back into my rhythm. Obviously the injury in itself was bad enough, but the move and everything. But they were all very positive things too. The move and coming out here is what also helped me get back so quick. And then the change in environment, the change in people around me, having a coach and someone looking out for me, looking after my recovery, making sure I'm doing all that correctly. Getting me the good fights when I come back, and then dealing with the promoters and everything. It all played into account and how quickly I was able to come back. So they were all very positive things, but it's still a lot to deal with.
Yeah, it does seem like even good things can be stress. Stress is good things or bad things. It's all something.
Right.
Yeah, it'll definitely adds in. I was really interested in asking you, Kevin, when you were coming up in California, the amateur scene out there were a lot of smokers out there, right?
Tons, yeah.
That's great because, we're talking to a couple of people here who are running similar events. Chris Romulo does it out here. And but it seems like those are really a great thing for fighters coming up. Did you see that in your path?
Oh, big time. Back, when I was coming up, there was between Vegas, Utah, Arizona, California. I mean, there was always fights every month, sometimes every week, and it was one of those things you could basically just drive down there, show up, and you could probably get a fight, and so we like there was a group of us. Yeah, it was pretty casual. And that was the thing too. You never knew if you were going to have it or not. I mean, the gym owner, whoever was running it, was always like, "Yeah, we have a fight for you," but you get there and they're just like, we'll see. So there was about probably 6 of us, maybe even more, that would just drive around to all these different fights all the time. And I think my first year I had 12 fights, something like that. you know.
Oh, that's
So
Thai style.
it was great, you know. It was a great way to come up, and you know, it was good and bad because at that time there wasn't those big shows, you know. That's all there was. So people just stayed amateur or did the smokers, and then they had the amateur thing with the pro am rules, which was nice. So I had a lot of pro fights that were you know, I fought pro rules, you know, all those shows under Toddy and stuff. Those are all amateur fights, you know. So it was great, but yeah, the same kind of thing happened out there where they ended up getting outlawed, and the commission got involved because somebody got really hurt at I think it was actually at Couture's gym. They didn't have a medical staff. You know, don't quote me on that. It might have been a different gym, but somebody ended up getting knocked out for a really, really, really long time. You know, the commission got wind of it. You know, the families got involved, and and now it's the point where you always have to have the commission there. They got to get paid now. Even the lowest level smokers, amateurs, have to get blood work. You know, so it's a little tricky for them nowadays.
If you were cornering a fighter, someone coming up from your gym, and you showed up at a smoker, this is just a hypothetical, and you saw a situation like that with no EMTs, and it looked bad to you, would you still encourage your fighter to go through with it, knowing what you know now?
I don't know. I don't know if I would be the best coach. You know, just because it's hard for me to differentiate between what I would do and what I would tell somebody else to do. You know, most of the time when people ask me for advice, you know, I kind of just tell them you just got to look at it for what it is, you know, and like, yeah, you could get really hurt, you know, you could get killed, and this isn't a game, you know, but at the same time, you know, you want to get your experience. You know, if I didn't take all those crazy ass fights that I took coming up, I wouldn't have half the fights that I have. You know, fighting people outweighed me by 30 pounds, or fighting on 2 hours notice, stuff like that. I mean, you know, if I had like a real coach, I'm sure he probably would have told me this isn't a good idea. You know, but obviously it was a good idea for me because that's how I got to where I got to. So. Right. You know, same thing with fighting with all those injuries. You know, I wouldn't recommend to anyone that that's what they should do. You could seriously, you know, paralyzed for life, or never be able to use your hand again because you're fighting with a broken hand. But that's what I did, you know.
It's like that Nick Lembo story.
What do you
the
mean?
One he told us on the podcast. We had a big a gaming commission guy here, the head of the New Jersey Athletic Commission. He said a fighter had broke his hand in another state.
Yeah.
Where the fight wasn't insured, and then he tried to take another fight in a state where it was insured.
Yeah. Oh, they do that all the time.
just to get his hand fixed after the next fight.
Yeah, I mean that happens all the time. All the time.
That's just part of the hustle.
I've never done that, but yeah, it goes on a lot.
What's your feeling on that? As far as you're mentioning how the commission in some of those states is now involved more with the smoker scene after that injury. Yeah. Do you think that's better in a way because there are more medical staff, or do you feel like it's kind of hindering things from growing a little bit?
Probably both. I mean, it's good to have medical staff there. As far as the commission being there, I mean, 99% of the time they're just there to get their paycheck. You know, they don't really care. They're not really there to watch out for the fighters. They don't know what the hell they're doing anyway. You know, most of these people in these commissions are just completely clueless to what fighting actually is, or what sport they're actually looking at. You know, they're there to get paid. That's their job, and you know, it's like people at the DMV almost. It's like they don't really give two shits about you.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that, I mean, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I definitely feel there should always be adequate medical staff and people that are there that know what they're doing. As far as the commission being involved, shit, I'd like to do away with them altogether, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. What do you think as far as control as far as keeping fighters safe? I mean, I guess you're saying that's that fine line. It's we need enough to keep them safe, but we don't need so much that it gets to be a huge bureaucracy.
Right, yeah. I mean, like, you know, if a lot of people had it their way, there wouldn't be fighting at all, you know, or like even the pros would be wearing like 20-ounce gloves and shin pads and chest protectors.
Right, yeah.
You know, like fighting's dangerous. We know that, okay? We don't need you telling us, oh, this is going to make it safer. Like, nothing can make fighting any safer. You can get just as hurt in a smoker with full gear. I mean, how many amateur boxers have been killed, or people in that kind of situation? People get killed just as easily as they do in the pros. So there's no way to make it safe. So by trying to add all these rules and regulations that most of the time don't even make no sense anyway, because it's just some idiot who saw a movie or something and is like, damn, that looks bad. We should take that out of fighting. And now we can't do downward elbows.
My doctor told me fighting is not in my best interest.
Yeah, that's what my
really?
doctor told me the first time I broke my hand. He told me I should stop fighting, and he didn't even take care of it. And that's why I had hand problems for so long.
Stop fighting, take an Excel course.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, doctors are never going to give you. I don't think any doctor is going to sign off and go, "Yeah, I think this fight's in your best interest." We're gonna.
I laughed
Yeah.
in the guy's face. I was like, "Yeah, I know. Like, what the fuck? Of course, it's not good for me." I wanted to ask you about Lion Fight. It's got to be the best promotion that's happened to U.S. Muay Thai. Probably, it's got to be ever. I'd say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm guessing, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. We can edit this. I'm guessing you have an exclusivity deal fighting with them.
I'm exclusive with them to North America.
Okay, so should someone like, let's say, Liam Harrison become available in Western Europe, that's a fight you could take?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't interfere with the fight I already have on the books. And yeah, they are. We made that very clear when I signed with them because I wanted to have those options. As some people know, some don't. I signed with Glory the same week I signed with Lion Fight, but I can't fight for them in the States. And unfortunately, every time I've had a break from Lion Fight, the Glory cards have been here in the country, so it just hasn't worked out.
Oh, so you're still on the Glory roster? Where you could potentially see you fighting not in the U.S. but somewhere else?
Yeah, because it was like an open contract, whereas like it was a year contract from the date of whenever my first fight is. So it's whenever that ends up happening. So they've been very open and great to me about they're ready for me whenever I'm ready. They know Muay Thai is my first love, and I'm always going to do that if I can. And kickboxing's the next best thing.
It's got to be cool. I mean, career stability has got to be something unique for a fighter. It's nice to have multi-fight deals, I bet.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. When I first signed with them, I thought that meant I was going to be fighting anytime I wanted, whenever I wanted, as often as I wanted, which isn't the case. I still have long layoffs that I don't want just because obviously they can't put me on every single card. Obviously injuries happen. Obviously cards fall through or opponents fall through. So, you still got to deal with all those struggles, but it's definitely better than having to go searching from promoter to country every time. So it's a nice change.
Yeah, that must be good as far as, when we talked to Christine from Lion Fight, she was mentioning that that's one of the most difficult things is, and one of the things Lion Fight can do for fighters is guarantee, look, you're going to have a fight at least X amount of times per year. Whereas if they're solo, they might not have that kind of guarantee, especially with the exposure.
For sure. No, I mean nobody's going to put you out there like they will, and obviously they can only guarantee as much as they can guarantee. There's so many other factors that get in there, but they do everything they can to put you on there when they say they're going to put you on there, and I couldn't be happier with them.
Everybody in my Instagram feed was taking pictures with Kevin at the Connecticut show. How's that feel to be out there, man, getting that well received, just walking around?
It's always really weird for me. It always has been since, I can remember the first time someone ever recognized me. This was, I don't know, like 8 years ago. We were at some amateur fight and some kid came up and said he wanted to take a picture with me. And he said he'd been watching me for a long time. And I just didn't know what the hell he was talking about because I didn't know how he'd even seen me fight. This is even before like YouTube and stuff, before like fights were up there. And so it's always been very strange for me to have fans, to have people come up to me and all that stuff. It's weird, and it's never gotten any less weird. It's just gotten to the point now where I know I've kind of accepted it, but it's still just as strange to me as it was from the beginning.
Yeah, that's got to be something new to get used to, but it's always good to see, like your man Joe Schilling.
Yeah.
The people that have been putting in work over years and putting in time are finally getting recognition as far as where it deserves to be. People are starting to appreciate it now that it's getting more exposure. It's good to see.
Yeah, it's great, man. I didn't think I'd still be around fighting while this kind of happened, while this explosion of Muay Thai and kickboxing happened here in the States. I figured I'd be long retired by the time it actually got on TV and stuff. So to still be fighting, basically at my prime, man, is pretty great.
You feel like you're at your prime right now?
I mean, I can always get better.
Spoken like a true champion.
Physically, though, I gotta be honest. I'm about the same age as you, and just on my own personal like I feel like I'm getting better and stronger as I'm getting older.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't feel like I'm definitely not slowing down. If anything, I'm getting better as time goes by.
That's crazy because you would think, like, I don't know, I think just knowing more about nutrition and knowing more about fitness, people are able to be athletes longer.
Yeah, it's definitely that definitely comes into play, and the better you take care of yourself, the longer you're going to be able to do this. So I think that's why you see a lot of athletes that can go a really long time, and it's few and far in between. But when you look at the ones that have done it, they took really good care of themselves and they were motivated. Whereas a lot of other fighters, you start getting older, you start getting lazier, and they make the excuse that I'm older now and these young guys, I just can't keep up with them. But at the end of the day, if you go and look at how they're training now, how they're dieting now, and all those things, I doubt they're doing the same things they were before. And it's like, as the years goes on, you got to do more and more and more, maybe smarter, but you're still doing it more, not less. You definitely can't do less.
Bernard Hopkins
start slacking off. So.
Yeah, I guess B-Hop, that's a good example.
B-Hop's 50 years old. He's a world champion.
Right. How many athletes have proven that wrong? It's not like, yeah, obviously they're a freak, but it's their dedication. It's how they take care of themselves. I think anyone could do it. It's just a matter of if you want to or not.
Now, at CSA there, do you have a team of, do you work with nutritionists? Do you work with strength and conditioning coaches?
Yeah, I work with strength and conditioning coaches. I pretty much do my own nutrition, but, I've kind of always done that. But yeah, I got a great strength and conditioning coach, Jesse Burdick, out there. Back in Vegas, I was working with Norm Turner for the last few years. That was something I added probably around 2009. It was really the first time I started really doing or having a strength and conditioning coach, and it really just opened up a whole new door to me.
Do you do anything for healing? Do you do yoga? Do you foam roll? I mean, like,
suck it up.
You just suck it up.
Well, going into that Michael Thompson fight with your ribs halfway hanging out of your body, what must have been.
Maybe you should try some yoga for your broken ribs.
I didn't want to move, man.
Yeah, I believe it.
At the same time, having somebody, having a high level guy like Michael across from me, somebody that's not running away from me, it just allows me to really be the fighter that I can be, as opposed to having to change my game up or deal with hug fests and stuff like that. I got somebody in there that wants to fight the way I like to fight, the way I like the people to fight, and it just brings the best out of me.
Your aggression seems to be more, I don't know how to even put this. It seems like you're using more angles now. It seems like you're right in the pocket, you're moving forward, but you're not as bloody at the end of most of these fights now, with the exception of the Yamamoto fight.
Yeah, what happened there?
There was some blood there. But do you feel that difference too?
Oh yeah, for sure. For ever since I moved in up here with Kieran, or even before that, my coach is always from the day one. I think Toddy was like, "Do you take too much damage, man?" Like, I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not gonna run around like an idiot. I want to fight, So, it's definitely something that's developed over the years, and it's something I've always been able to do. I've always been able to do that in the gym. It's just when I fight, I don't care and don't want to move out of the way. I want to go forward, and I want to hit people, and I don't want there to be any breaks in between. So Kieran's been very adamant about really trying to get me to move and almost forcing me to do it, even though I'm resisting as much as possible. But it's definitely getting in there, and as the years have gone on and I've developed all these things, I've been able to implement them into my game and use them in a way to where I'm still fighting like myself. I can still be me and add those things in there without feeling like a phony. So yeah, it even surprises me when I saw that last fight, or like when I was moving so much and
Mosseri
all
fight
that
too.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
He's an
It was
aggressive
another
dude.
thing. It was really easy for me to see everything coming, you know, and that came from doing a lot of boxing and stuff. And in the gym, I had felt like my vision and everything had been getting really good, but I didn't know if that was just because I'm used to going with the guys I'm going with, or what. But I felt like my vision was getting really good. I was seeing the angles really well and being able to capitalize on them really well. And then when the fight, it was just like everything was in slow motion, man, and it surprised me a lot when I was in there that it was that easy to kind of anticipate and see those things.
You'd mentioned your Coach K there. That's Coach Kieran Fitzgibbons at Combat Sports Academy. And how important is it to have that good team around you to help you keep evolving as a fighter?
Yeah, it's the most important thing. There's only so much you can do by yourself, and I would know it. I mean, I was in the gym for years alone, without any training partners, without any pad holders, with a bag and myself. So the more you can have great people around you, the easier everything else is going to be. Like we were talking about earlier, you should really only have to focus on just getting to the gym, training, fighting, staying healthy, eating right, and you got all these the more you got other people looking out for you, the right people, the better it's going to be. I think that's one of the problems a lot of the MMA guys have, is they almost have too many of those people around them. Too many people telling them what to do, too many people with different opinions. So you definitely need to have a group that works well together and kind of one person that oversees everything. You can't have 7 coaches and each one of them thinks they know how you should fight and what you should do, how you should act, who you should fight. You got to have that one person looking out for everything, and then you got these other small specific coaches. Like Kieran's my main coach. He's also my main pad holder, but I work with a boxing guy. Like I said, I work with a strength and conditioning guy. I have my guys I spar with and work with, and he kind of just oversees everything. But I have all these separate people I work with. But he's the ringleader, really.
What gave you the faith in him to make the leap initially before you guys started working together? I mean, you're talking about a pretty big element of trust there.
Yeah. I've known him for a really long time. I mean, I've probably known Kieran since 2007 maybe, because he used to come down to Toddy's and do some of the courses down there and bring some of his fighters down there. So we've known each other for a really long time. I had never worked with him before, but I'd been around him a lot, and he brought me up to his gym quite a few times. I started coming up here to spar with Nick and Nate Diaz and Jake Shields and all of them, and that's how I really started falling in love with the gym out here. And he always mentioned that they'd really love to have me here. He knew I was based in Vegas, so he never really pushed too hard, but he was always dropping little hints here and there about it. And the more I came up here, the more I fell in love with the place. And
great area too.
It's beautiful here. I love it. Before I really decided to move up here, I had a fight coming up, so I came up here for, I think it was like 2 weeks, and I was basically gonna live up here as if this was my home. So I started my training camp here. I started working at the gym as if I would just like living here, and tried to make it as close to what it would be like living here as it would, and I was just sold right away, man.
That's great. You'd mentioned some of the guys there that you spar with and that you work with. Who do you have on the team with you now?
Gaston Bolaños, Eddie Abasolo. Both those guys are Fight for Lion Fight. Probably seen both of them. Mm-hmm. Those are my main 2 guys I work with. Us two. Brian Petro, he's an amateur, and we all help Zoe out. She helps us out too. She spars with us, so we're that's like my main team right there. There's a lot of other people there I work with for sparring and stuff like that, but those are my main people I work with on a daily basis. And then, Chaz comes out often. Joe is out here often. They come and visit and, for their fights as well as for helping me out. So, we kind of all go back and forth. I go back to Vegas a lot or head out to LA and get training in with those guys, or down in San Diego with Artem. I got a lot of people to work with.
Artem Levin?
No,
Shoroshkin, I think, right?
Shoroshkin, yeah.
I was like, wait, what?
He hits me a lot.
Well, that's great. You've definitely got a lot of people like Gaston Bolano. Some of his fights he's obviously a superstar in the making right now. But
sure.
Is he coming out to Connecticut the next time they're doing the East Coast?
I believe so, because that's the one I'm going to be on. I'm pretty positive he's going to be on too. Neither one of us has a set opponent or anything, so I think that's Line Fight's plan for right now. So hopefully.
Excellent. That'd be great to see you back on the East Coast here.
Yeah. I'll be there regardless. But that I should be on that card for sure, because that's a long time in between fights for me.
You're from PA though, right?
Yeah, Reading.
How long you been out of Reading?
Like my whole life almost. I moved to Vegas when I was 13, 14.
Do you still have people out in Pennsylvania though?
Yeah, most of my family is on the East Coast.
Yeah, that's cool, man. These East Coast fights are it's awesome. I'm
Yeah,
excited that Foxwoods is doing it.
For sure. It's nice to see them spreading out and heading out there too, because I know you guys need those big shows as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we're trying to get as many shows as we can out here. Luckily, we've got Warriors Cup here in Jersey.
Yeah.
Owen and I were at the Warriors Cup. We called the last one, and
Brian Popejoy had his Thai fighter.
Cornpet.
Yeah.
Cornpet, yeah.
Did you see any of those fights?
I want to say I saw a little bit of that one, but it might not have been that one. I don't think I did.
Yeah, well, we're lucky in those regards to be able to get some fights. I'm so happy Line Fights is coming out here too now, because that's just more shows coming up. I definitely, I'm really interested, as we were talking before about the amateur scene, smokers and things like that. What would you say is important to get if you were in the middle of somewhere that had no Muay Thai at all? What do you think the pieces are to get a scene going on?
There's so many factors that come into play. Obviously, you got to have gyms out there. I mean, if there's gyms, and there's a scene out there, just no fights. I mean, you got to find a way to get those amateur fights, even if they're just inter club fights. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just you taking your fighters from your gym and going and sparring at another gym. I mean, that's really how all that starts. And I mean, that's basically what smokers are anyway. It's like inner gym fights, and then they develop into the amateur scene, and then from there you go to the pro scene. I was just being out in Houston yesterday. Corley, he was putting on a smoker. I think he had like 40 fights there. It was jam packed. Wow. He's also doing the amateur events out there now too, and he's really trying to build up the scene out there in Houston, and it's amazing because there's so many people that were there, man, and it surprises me that the scene's still so small. But he's doing what he can to build it up. It's just one person doing it, or a handful of people doing it. So, it just needs more people like that doing it in places that just don't have it.
Yeah, you were out in Austin for your seminar there at his gym, yeah.
Yeah, Houston.
Houston, that's it. I saw a picture from that. It looked packed in there. It looks like you filled that place out.
Yeah, there was like 60 people there. That was the biggest seminar I've ever had. I usually get about 30, 40 people maybe, but that was definitely the biggest.
How do you find things like seminars, as far as fighters going out there supporting themselves, teaching seminars, doing privates? Is that something that you're working on now? Are you available for seminars? Is people around the country are interested?
Yeah. I've been doing seminars for quite a few years now, and teaching as well. As far as seminars go, it's pretty much something I can only do right after fights, just because of the traveling and everything. But I try to set them up the week after fights, week or two after fights. But I still do them, even if it's like a month out. I'll still set them up and do them. But yeah, people hit me up all the time to come out there and do a seminar at their gym, and it's funny. Like everyone's like, you should come here, you should come here, you should come here. I'm like, well, hit me up and I will. Just
There's ways to make this
me.
happen.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Like I'm not just gonna show up and just hope for the best.
Yeah, call some people. I'm here.
That actually happened in Florida. I was out there after what fight was that? The Yamato fight. And some people found, obviously with my social media stuff, they realized I was in Florida, and they were like, "Do you want to come do a seminar at our gym tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, why not, man?" And it was a really huge turnout. People were driving from like 6 hours away. It really blew me away.
Wow, that's great. If people do want to set you up for a seminar, should they just contact you through Facebook?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. I don't think I'm very incognito. So yeah, hit me up, man. I'll come out.
Yeah, that IG is certainly active.
Yeah,
I hit you with those double taps, though. I got you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Is there anybody you want to fight? I know you'll fight anybody, but is there anyone that's on your radar that you would really like to get in there with?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned actually at the last Lion fight, I want to get my rematch with Yamato. I know he wants it too. That's one I probably want the most at this point. That obviously that fight with Harrison has been in talks for, I don't know, 6 years now, 5 years now. So that's another great one I want. I definitely want a rematch with Sakadal one day, hopefully. I mean, I won't be too mad if it doesn't happen, but that's one I would like to get back in there and do it again. I think a lot of people would love to see Saenchai again. I would too, but that's one of those fights. It doesn't really like sting in my mind like the Sakadal fight was. Like the Sakadal fight, there was a lot going on. I'm not gonna make excuses about it, but I know for a fact that I did not perform the way I can perform it. Whereas the Saenchai fight, I mean, I got no excuses going into that one. I was 100% healthy. I fought the best I could fight, and I'm happy with that fight, So it's not something that I dwell on about losing, but I'm sure it would be great to get in there with him again,
Do you find that you're your own worst critic, your own harshest critic on yourself?
Oh, big time. Yeah, like I said earlier, I can't watch my fights because I hate them all.
Is that just a discomfort watching yourself?
No. It's just being a perfectionist. I don't see what I do well. I see what I do wrong.
Right.
I see the mistakes that I make. I see what I do well, but could do better. And I think that's something that you need in order to improve. I probably take it a little too far because I can't give myself any credit, but I'd rather that be the case than me be some egomaniac that thinks he's God's gift to Muay Thai.
Gotcha. Yep. Nobody likes that guy.
Are they out there?
Yeah, I know a few of them will be.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see the different approaches out there to the sport. As far as there's different sanctioning bodies out there. There's different certifying agencies, different certifying bodies. Everybody's got a different way of approaching the sport. It seems like, and it's interesting to see how it's growing. And some of those things clash sometimes, but.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, everyone's going to have their own way of doing things, but I mean, that's how it is across the world. It's everywhere's got their own different way to judge things or to have these rules as far as like hand wrapping and weight cutting and all kinds of stuff. Everyone's got their own way to do it. So I think a lot of times, like, we get a lot of flack for having bad judging, which I agree with. But at the same time, I mean, everywhere's got bad judging. You can go watch fights anywhere in the world and just be completely baffled at how somebody won a fight. There's nowhere, even Thailand. When you start when the gambling starts coming into play, you can't just say, "Oh, that fight was scored correctly" because they're in Thailand. No, there's so much more that goes into it other than that. So I don't think you could ever point at somebody and say they're doing it right and they're doing it wrong. Everyone's doing it their own way. It's just a matter of kind of knowing how people do score it, and you got to adjust your game accordingly. Whenever you fight anywhere else, whether it's another country, another state, you got to take that into account. You can't complain about it afterwards. Be like, well, if this was at home, I would have won the fight. Well, it wasn't at home, and you knew it wasn't at home, so you should have made those adjustments. It's not like you just figured that out when you got there.
I feel like it's interesting that some people are confused, or maybe I don't know about confused, but you go up to a show, it says Muay Thai on the poster, you're in the fight, and you get kicked more. Like Liam and I were at a show where a guy was chasing another guy around with his hands. Not too effective. A lot of kicks were being landed, and he couldn't believe that he lost.
Right.
And it's like, well, yeah, kicks are scored higher. I don't understand what the discrepancy is. You knew what sport we were coming to do tonight.
Yeah. 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 It's just the headache. Yeah. I mean, not to, for the correct way to score it, and then, then you also got other people's opinions of how to score it and what's right and what's wrong, and then how do you even take that into account? And it's not like you're sitting there with a percentage meter in your hand and knowing how hard a strike actually landed. I mean, there's so many things that come into play. I mean, being a judge is fucking hard, man. I judged one smoker and I was like, never again. Never again.
Judging something in the moment and being subjective about it and then trying to reflect on what you just saw, it's weird. And that's why you see those incredibly terrible scoring, I think, even in HBO boxing. Like, if you look at the Lara-Canelo fight, two judges had at 1 point, and another guy had an 8-point difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's also another thing when you're sitting up that close as opposed to being far away. In some ways, it's better because you can really see and feel the impact of the strikes, but at the same time you don't have that overall picture of what's going on in there, so you're seeing certain things that you wouldn't from far away, but at the same time you're missing a lot too. So you could watch a fight from 4 different angles and get 4 different opinions on it. So I try not to give judges too much grief over it. It's when those judges consistently mess up and make these really just out of line decisions, that's when I think things need to change and people need to get fired or fined or reviewed at least, but when a fight's close or, when everyone's kind of scoring it the same way and you might not agree with it, well, that's fighting, but when you're constantly making these bad calls, bad decisions and are so lopsided compared to the other judges, things need to change.
Do you think that state commissions should be taking a role in training officials, training judges, getting everybody on at least some kind of a unified rule system or unified kind of plane?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I don't see how that's even a question. The fact that there's people judging our sport that don't even know it is just mind-boggling to me. I mean, you got guys giving rules meetings in the back and they don't even know the rules. I'm watching Cecil Peoples ref one of Miriam's fight, and he says no judo, and she did a sweep, a Muay Thai sweep. He said no jujitsu, which made it even worse. It's like this guy is just completely clueless, and I mean that's a perfect example of someone that's just constantly, clearly showing he doesn't know what he's doing, and the problem is they have no repercussions for their mistakes. It's like, what other job can you just screw up that much and it's like, whatever, what are you going to do?
He was your ref in the Sanchez fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude doesn't let people clinch. I think he's done some pretty high-profile boxing fights, and he might be good at that, but he's not a Muay Thai referee.
No, and that's the thing, too, is a lot of these guys come up in karate or boxing or anything, kickboxing. Like, you got a boxing guy reffing or judging a Muay Thai fight. I mean, it's hard enough to ref or judge a Muay Thai fight if you're a Muay Thai practitioner. How are you going to have someone that maybe took an hour-long course, if that, on how to score or judge these things correctly? And these guys, these are the people that are basically controlling your career. Like, you get a loss or you get a bad call, it can completely change what you could have done after that point. I mean, this you're basically being judged on your whole time training, all this stuff in this one moment, these 15 minutes, and this person has all this control over you that doesn't even know what it is you're doing. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating. I've definitely seen in my own experience, there's different sanctioning bodies, and they'll train their people differently for different rules, and it's almost it's trying to shoehorn. I've seen them trying to shoehorn MMA judges or shoehorn boxing judges into a Muay Thai program and go, all right, here's a couple hours, watch this film, we'll explain it to you, but it's like, but some agencies are really good. Some will like do reviews and they'll keep going over and they'll send their judges to training things. So it's so hit or miss.
Here's a review of neck wrestling. What?
Yeah, obviously it's good to see that some of these judges and refs, I mean, they do take the time. They show up at gyms and watch sparring sometimes, and or they go to like the amateur smoker level and really try to get experience in the sport. So I mean, that's very, very nice to see that they're actually trying. They know they don't have as much experience in the sport as they should, and they're actually trying to get more. Where the majority of these people are just they have this sense of seniority over people because they're in charge, and it's like, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for however many years, so what I say is right and what you say is wrong, even though you've been in this doing this specific sport your whole life.
Yeah, it certainly seemed as things are blowing up, it's almost like the sport and the scene is blowing up faster than the ability to train enough officials and enough judges to watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's getting there. I mean, hopefully more fighters can get into the judging, and more fighters with actual experience, or either running gyms or coaching or fighting, can get in, and hopefully that'll help over time.
We'll see.
When you're doing a seminar, you do things pretty traditional. You wear a Mong, you do Y crews when you can. Obviously not on television, but
when I fight, yeah.
Yeah.
I think at the seminar, I'm like, no, I'm not that guy.
Is that something you stress, though? Your experience with tradition and how you feel about it, is that something you would stress in a seminar?
Not really. Most seminars, I mean, people are there for all different reasons. There's all different levels. Not everyone's there to be this traditional Thai fighter. I mean, you got people that are still there just to do, to get in shape or to have fun. And I think that is something more that should more be stressed from coaches and from the gyms themselves. But a lot of these gyms aren't traditional, so I'm not going to try to tell people, oh, you should teach this or you should do this and you guys should be this way, when it might help educate, but it won't help grow the sport if you're like forcing this culture on people. I think we should educate people on it. But I don't feel like you should force it onto them. Like that you have to do it this way, when we're all going to do it our own way anyway. So we should kind of embrace that.
Yeah, you mentioned there's a couple of different people have different approaches, different ways of doing it. I've seen a few programs that are kind of mass-produced programs that are made to be put out, and just kind of cookie-cutter programs. And it seems like, the way of like traditional martial arts or Taekwondo, those things are different from Muay Thai, because in Muay Thai, at least we've got a fight scene. So if we've got a well-regulated scene, that can help show, I don't care if you're a 45th Dan degree black belt in Muay Thai. Who do you have on the scene? Who can you put in the ring?
Yeah, that's funny. Me and Corley were talking about this yesterday, and just the amount of quote-unquote crews and Arjans out there. It's just, it sickens me, really. 99% of these guys basically paid a couple grand for a piece of paper. How do you say somebody knows something like you go your whole career to learn what you need to in Muay Thai and be able to train people, and somebody's going to go spend a week at a course and now they have the same knowledge that you do? That it's just madness to me. Like what those should be is coaches looking to kind of improve and add to their game. Like, yeah, maybe give them a certificate of completion. Like, you went to this course. Like Kieran recently had that coaches course up here, which was great. It was a couple-day thing. He kind of went over how he trains his fighters, the programs we go through, kind of giving his take on training people and things like that. And at the end of it, like, the coaches got their knowledge, and it wasn't like, oh, now you're certified, and here's your Mongkol, and like you got to bow to me every time you see me. It's just madness to me. So people are like selling this lie basically, and unfortunately, it just spreads this disease of ignorance, because the students that are coming up under these people, they don't know any better. They're in the assumption that these guys are actually who they say they are. They're like, hey, I went and did this course for 2 days, and now I'm a crew.
So you're saying
crazy,
they're not.
man. What's that?
So you're saying they're not.
Yeah, I'm saying they're not. You know, I would equate it to somebody assuming they could take a week-long course, and that would equate to your whole scholastic career, college, middle
Right.
school, and like you're telling me you learned all that in a week? Come on, man.
It's like plugging
crazy.
into that machine in the Matrix.
It's just it really makes me sick. And then not to mention you got these people thinking like all of a sudden they can tell people to call them crew so and so, and that's their Facebook name, and I just want to like burn them all to the ground.
Yeah, it's definitely aggravating to see that. But and the other part of it that gets to me is I've also seen coaches, well, quote unquote coaches, people in the past that are kind of it seems like they get into it because they want that role of, you know,
Yeah.
I'm in this position. And, you know, people can do what they want in their own life, but when you start taking kids who aren't ready and throwing them into the ring, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, this is dangerous, man. This is serious in there.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that really comes into play, and when it can really get people hurt is because these people don't know what they're doing. They don't know all these aspects. They don't know. They didn't go through the experience of coming up. You know, I'm not saying, I definitely would never say you got to be a fighter to be a coach. It's been proven time and time again. A lot of times the fighters that weren't the best or didn't fight at all become the best coaches, you know, whereas like a lot of the high level fighters can't coach at all. So that has nothing to do with it, but you still got to get your experience. You still got to put your time in. You still got to pay your dues. And it's like people just don't want to do it. They want the quick fix, just like everything else in life. You know, that they want to pay a couple bucks, and all of a sudden they think they are at the same level somebody that spent their whole life doing this is. You know, it's that same thing with people assuming because you have a title that really makes you a champion. Like, how many freaking belts are out there? They don't mean anything at all. So it's, who did you fight? You know, what have you done? Like, how was that fight? It's not, I have a belt, so you just assume I'm a world champion of North Dakota. You know, it just needs to start with more education and people, you know, kind of realizing that not everyone is who they say they are.
I feel bad for people that they show up at a gym, they got to deal with crew so-and-so, and they like it, and then they learn a little bit more about the sport, and they're like, oh, man, my gym is horse shit. This place sucks.
Yeah. You know, back in the day, you know, when Toddy was doing his instructor certifications, which I just hated, and I wanted to kill everyone when I'd see this, and it made me sick, and I really hated that side of what he did. But, you know, he was about making money, and that's his thing. But, you know, I'd see these instructors coming up, and they're telling me about all the students they have, all the schools they have, and I'm just, like, baffled at, like, how do these students not realize this guy doesn't know what he's doing, man? And eventually, like, sometimes the students would come with him, and finally I asked one of them, because I just couldn't bite my tongue anymore. I'm like, do you not know this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about? Like, at this day and age, okay, the internet and everything, you can't look at a video of somebody like a world champ or a great coach, and then you look at what you're doing, you don't see the difference between the two. And they basically were like, yeah, but there's just nothing else around us. Like, what are we supposed to do? And unfortunately, that's the case, where a lot of times you got to take what you can get, you know, but hopefully you know what it is that you're working with, and it's not, you know, you're not under this assumption that you're working with this great trainer, but you know, if you got to do what you got to do, that's the way it's got to be. You know, sometimes, you know, people got to train in their garages by themselves for years and years, and that's just what you got to do because there's nothing around. But hopefully you know what it is you're working with, so you're not confused or blindsided when you realize this guy's an idiot.
Well, thankfully now we've got, you know, YouTube and also promotions like Lion Fight on TV,
Yeah.
so hopefully that can spread some truth.
Yeah, I think it's getting better, but, you know, I still see them out there. But, you know, it's not like these people are producing fighters, and, you know, I think all the truth always comes out eventually. You know, you could have the gym for as long as you want, but eventually people are going to call you out on it. Eventually people are going to figure out that you're full of it and go somewhere else, and that's why a lot of these gyms and people don't last very long.
They get culty.
Yeah.
I've seen a few gyms like that where it gets just
it
weird.
gets weird.
Like the guy in Japan who's knocking people over with he's doing his energy.
Have you seen those energy guys, Kevin, where they're using their chi or whatever it is, and they'll Hadouken the dude from 3 feet away, and he's on the ground?
I've seen a lot, man.
You know what doesn't stop? Punches to your face.
Yeah.
Man.
It seems like more and more gyms are coming up, and obviously MMA gyms. I feel like there's one on every block now, and that's almost a shame for the good practitioners who came from a good background, put their time in, put the work in, and now everybody who used to have a karate studio can just adds on, we're MMA too. But the same thing has happened with Muay Thai, I've seen, where a lot of these karate studios and traditional places, they do the certification thing, and they're like, yep, we got it, we're good. So Muay Thai is, and it sucks for, honestly, to see people who put the time in, put work in, just to see some guy pop up a storefront, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, anytime something starts getting popular, that's the kind of negative side of it, But as I said, the truth always comes out. People know who the real fighters are. People know who the real gyms are. The real coaches are. There's always going to be those phonies out there, and they're always going to have their students and their people that are with them, and that's just the way it goes, man. And it's unfortunate, but that's just kind of how it is. I would recommend to anyone looking to get into this sport, or maybe people that are in the sport, take a look at what's going on around you, what's going on out there. You kind of look at the top gyms, the top fighters, and you can kind of gauge where you're at, where your gym's at, if it's legit. Like I said, maybe you just don't have any other options, but I think it's a lot easier these days to kind of figure out what's what and what isn't than it was maybe 10 years ago.
Right. What advice would you give to any up-and-coming fighters if they're listening to for their careers?
As far as fighting, you just got to get as much experience as you can. That's another unfortunate thing that comes with Muay Thai gaining in popularity is people are in a rush to get to the show. You know what I'm saying? Like, whereas before there was no show. There was no show. It was only about fighting. So people were just fighting all the time as often as possible because they loved it. And there was no payoff. There was nowhere to go with it. So you just did it because you loved it. So it kept the right people in the sport. And now it's at the point where it's like, maybe I can get to I can fight on TV one day. So people want to rush to be pro or a rush to get in there. It's like, dude, man, you gotta pay your dues. If you look at high level like boxers, man, they're like amateurs for 8 years with like 400 fights.
Yeah.
It's in their pro career is very carefully watched over and guarded, and then their last few fights they get those big money fights, and the reason they're so good is because they have that experience, and that's something that's missing here in the States when it comes to Muay Thai. And these days it's like everyone's in a rush. Nobody wants to pay their dues. People are trying. They're like, oh, you're going to put me on the line fight card. Where's my money? I'm like, dude, you're an amateur, man. Like we were paying to fight back in the day. Like there's a million people that would kill to be here. And you guys are like begging for this, that, and the other just because like you think because you're on line fight now, like you made it to the show. And like, it's unfortunate. People need to like build up their careers, build up their names, build up their fan base. Like you'll get there. And do you want to get there, or do you want to get there and stay there? Like anyone can get on a big card, or hell, anyone can get like a big title fight. You make a big enough noise, and there's ways around that. But how long are you going to hold on to that title? A day, and you're going to lose it. So I would tell people, get as much experience as you can. Win, lose, or draw, it's all going to be a learning experience. And that's how I got as many fights as I had, and then how I was able to get to improve so quickly as I was fighting all the time. It wasn't waiting for the perfect fight, the perfect opponent. If you do that, you're going to fight once a year maybe. You got to go out there and fight as often as you can and train as often as you can. But it's more about quality than the quantity. Some people think they can spend like 12 hours a day at the gym and all of a sudden they're going to be the best ever when somebody else could spend an hour and get just as much work. So it's getting the right kind of quality training in, getting a number of fights. Yes, quality is important, but when it comes to the fights, I think the number is more important than the actual quality. You'll kind of figure out and develop that as it goes on, but you just got to get in there as often as possible when it comes to fighting.
You think it's more important to fight up?
Always.
Yeah.
You talking about level wise?
Yeah, because we're just talking
Yes.
about boxing. It seems like anytime you meet a new fighter on television, the guy's 20-0. And you're like,
Yeah,
well, how did that happen?
and I mean that comes in a lot with how that whole circuit works. I mean they need these guys to be undefeated fighters, so when they finally make it to the $1 million show, it's this big name against this big name, and that's really the reason that kind of comes into factor. When you look at Muay Thai, you look at the top Muay Thai fighters in the world. I mean, they have like 100 losses and 200 wins.
Right.
And why are they so good? Because they've had all that experience. It has nothing to do with wins or losses. You go to Thailand, I think that's what's really great is they don't. It's like win or lose, it doesn't matter. It's about the fight. It's like, well, did you have a good fight? That's what's important. It does. They don't even ask you. They don't ask you how many wins, how many losses do you have. They ask you how many fights do you have, because that's what matters. I'd rather fight a guy that was 1-60 or over a guy that was like 10-0. Because that guy that's 1-60 has 61 fights and 61 experiences, and he knows what to do and how to do it in there. Even if he ain't winning, he's out there getting the experience.
That's what I love about Muay Thai. It's not everyone, but personally, I think you get no props for being undefeated. Like look at Chaz.
Yeah.
He was like 9-6, I think, but he's still very highly regarded, getting big fights.
Right. If you're undefeated, you're doing something wrong. I say you are either that badass or you're not fighting the right people, and odds are you're not fighting the right people. So yeah, don't be so concerned with your career, not your career, but your record. It's great to have a good record, but when it comes down to it, the fighters, the promoters, all these people, especially in this sport in particular, the real knows real. Like real fighters know that you're a real fighter. It has nothing to do with your record. I don't know what anybody's record is. That has nothing to do with, like, when I think about my favorite fighters, I don't care when they win, lose, or draw. I love to watch them fight. It has nothing to do with whether they got the W or not. Like, that's great and all, but that's not what's important.
Do you think that gets lost with what you mentioned before, like people trying to get to the show, so they're trying to protect their records, they try to pick fights, and
Yeah.
Does that tie into getting mismatches on cards and things like that?
Yeah, big time, man. And a lot of it's the fighters, but more than anything, it's at the end of the day that their trainers are the ones that are watching out for them. And that's the thing where if you don't have the right trainer, you might have someone that has that mindset, which is like, yeah, we're just going to put you in there with these bums, and we're going to get you to win all these fights, and then you're going to make it, but eventually you're going to get checked. You know what I mean? Eventually you're going to be in there with somebody that knows what the hell they're doing, and you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, a fight career, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You need that time. You need that experience. You need those losses in there. You need those wins in there. Because when you get to the big show and when you're fighting these high level guys, they've had all that. They know how to deal with getting hurt. They know how to deal with getting dropped. They know how to deal with fighting sick or fighting injured. And that's how they can kind of continue to perform when things aren't going at their best. Whereas somebody else has been protected, which I mean, I'm not going to mention names, but you see it happen where people are protected their whole careers, and then they go in there and they just get smashed out in the pros, and now it's like, well, what happened? Well, you got protected your whole career. You didn't have that experience, and now you're in there with people that can really hurt you, and they are hurting you, and you don't know how to react to it. And it's kind of one of those things where it's a little bit late to figure it out now. You don't want to figure these things out when you're a pro. Those are all the kind of things you need to figure out when you're an amateur. Like, those are the kind of questions you need to answer coming up when it's a little safer, like what it's like to get hurt, what it's like to get knocked out. You don't want to get knocked out, but you should at least kind of have an idea of how it is you react when you go in there. It'd be like going into a fight and never having sparred in your whole life. Like, you don't know what it's like to get hit. Like, not hit that by somebody that's really trying to hurt you. You know what I mean? It's one thing sparring. It's another thing when someone is literally trying to kill you. It's a different kind of hit.
That's
You
a
know what
Kevin
I'm
Ross
saying?
hit right there.
But yeah, that's why you need experience, man. You need experience, good and bad, and that's how you get to be the best. Is you got to have both.
When considering fighters that are coming up, obviously at Combat Sports Academy there in California, you guys must get a lot of people coming in the door who think they want to be fighters, or maybe they do want to be fighters, they don't know yet. If you've got people coming in, what do you find is the strongest quality to indicate success in a new guy coming in the door?
Man, it has zero to do with ability. Well, I don't want to say zero, but a very, very low level to do with your actual natural ability and talent. It's all about heart and desire, man, like how much you want something. I mean, I can tell within 5 minutes of talking to someone if they're ever going to do anything in this sport. You know, somebody comes in and says they want to be a fighter. I mean, I can know right away, just in talking to them, because I can tell their level of dedication and what it is they really want, why it is they're doing this. Are they doing this because they want to be on TV and they want to get chicks? Or are they doing this because they want to be the best and they're going to do whatever it is that it takes to get there? You know, they don't care how much they got to kill themselves, you know, to get where they want to get. So, yeah, it's all about how bad you want it. Everything in life is if you want to make it anywhere. You know, I wouldn't have made it here if it only solely relied on ability or, you know, starting young. You know, you got all these other things playing into to account there that can work against you, and the only way you're going to be able to overcome those things is if you really want it bad enough.
That's great. Yeah, you are writing in your blog a lot now about. I know every Sunday it's usually coming out, and you've got a lot of followers that check it out.
I try, man. You know, that's something I've been doing for a really long time, since the MySpace days.
Ooh,
it was never
it back.
Yeah, way back.
MySpace, baby.
It was never anything I really thought about. You know, I would write once in a while, and I started kind of posting stuff here and there, and you know, people kind of told me that they enjoyed reading what I had written, especially when it came to fight stuff and, you know, traveling to fights and things like that. So I started doing it more and more over the years and really trying to make sure I made time for it. And it's just something I've kind of developed and gotten into. And I really enjoy doing it. And people obviously enjoy reading it. I just wish I could do more of it. But, you know, I get tired and I just don't want to. And, you know, so
Right.
I try to stay up on it as much as I can. But it happens when it happens.
How often do you get to do you paint mostly? Is that your artistic creative outlet with the writing and that?
Yeah. I'd say I do mostly painting, drawing type stuff. I mean, I went to school for computer animation, but I don't really do any of that anymore. That was just like an outlet I was looking to get into. I mean, this was before I started fighting, so I was like, what am I going to do with my art career? Like, you know, how am I going to make something? And you know, animation was something cool that you could actually make a living doing. So that's kind of where I started going with that. But drawing and painting, that's something I've done since I was really, really first born, or first time I could hold a pen. So, you know, I don't do as much as I'd like. You know, when I'm training for fights and stuff, I'm just tired, man. I don't have the energy to do it. So, that along with seminars and stuff is something I'd always try to get in right after fights. You know, I try to get a piece done. I'm going to start working on one this week, actually. So I don't do them too often, especially since the ones I do are quite large and take a really long time. But it's always something I want to stay up on and do as much as I can. And I know once I slow down in the fighting or stop fighting, I'll do it a lot more.
Is your approach to training for fights any? I've never painted a thing. I've painted, you know, walls at an office. That's the only thing I've ever done. And is your approach to your painting similar to your approach to training for fights? Time put in, what you're dedicating your energy to.
Yeah,
This
probably
question
not.
might be shitty.
Like when it comes to my paintings, like I want them done like now, and I can't stand to see them unfinished. And you know, like cause like I design them ahead of time, like I draw them out. I do like a pre-painting on the computer, like on Photoshop and stuff, and I kind of map it all out how I want to do it. So I already have it set in my mind what it's going to be, how it's going to look. So the painting is the easiest part for me. It's just it takes the longest, and it's really frustrating for me to do and to have them sitting there, especially when I walk by it every day and I see that it's not done. I just want to like smash my head into a wall or set it on fire. Like so many of my paintings, I almost burn to the ground just because I get furious and fed up with them.
That's so funny that it doesn't sound like you like it.
It's a love hate. It's a love hate. Like I love when they're done and finished. I wouldn't say I enjoy the process as much as I enjoy when it's done. You know, it's. I'm just impatient, is all. You know, it's not that I don't enjoy it. I just have no patience. And like I said, the stuff I do is really big, like 6 feet is like the majority of my paintings are like 6 feet tall. So obviously they take quite some time. You know, it's not like a little tiny piece I could just knock out in an hour. So it's like no matter how much I rush it, it's still going to take the time it's going to take. You know, so it's quite frustrating to me. But I'm kind of the same way when it comes to my fighting career as opposed to my training approach, because I want to fight all the time, and I don't have any patience to sit around in between fights. So in that sense, it's very similar.
That was nice of you to tie that in. My question was terrible, I know, but that was really well done. Thanks.
Well, I figured I had to fix it for you.
So recently, we have seen on the online you started the campaign "Can't Stop Matt."
That is Madeline Parker. Her father, Michael Parker, emailed me. I want to say it was before. It was definitely before the Masseri fight. He kind of told me he'd just gotten into Muay Thai recently, and he told me about his daughter. She was born with these two really bad. I don't know if I'd call them birth defects, but diseases basically, and she's pretty much paralyzed and has a lot of problems. And he said the one thing that always makes her smile and makes her and allows her to focus on stuff, because she has a hard time focusing on things and staying centered on what's going on is whenever he would put on my fights or my highlight video, man. And he told me about her, and it just like melted my heart, man. I was like a wreck for like a week after that I heard this, and like just knowing that I had that impact on someone that's dealing with those kind of things, and like him and his family and stuff. And I was like, he actually lives up not close, but like in Sacramento, which is about an hour and a half away from here, 2 hours away. So, I sent him a picture and stuff, a signed photo, and then he sent me that photo back that's, it's up online of her. It's got that photo of me from the Yamato fight, and she's smiling and stuff. And man, he sent me that, and I was even more of a wreck than I was before. Just like, I mean, I have it hanging on my door, and it's just like it's just a reminder to me every day, like that is why I got into, not why I got into the sport, but that's why I do what I do, and why I continue to kind of push myself is because of those kind of positive ways I can impact people, and I really just wanted to help them out in some way. I was like, there's got to be a way I can kind of help them. I mean, obviously she has a lot of medical bills and things like that. I was like, I want to find a way to kind of raise some money for them, and kind of help them out. So I was talking to Drew, who's he basically designs all the shirts for Can't Stop Crazy, and I was telling him about it, and I was like, we got to design a shirt, man. We could sell it, and I was gonna surprise him with all the proceeds of it. I basically told him I was gonna give him a portion of the proceeds, but I put up all the money, got all the shirts printed up, sold all of them. I mean, we sold 80% of them, I think, in the first 24 hours.
Wow.
And I sent him the big check. It was for all the money, everything. And man, like I said, that is really why I do what I do, and I want to be able to do stuff like that more. For a long time, I've been trying to find these outlets to kind of help people and find ways to give back. I try to go to and do this donation stuff every month. We donate clothes and food to this place up in Milpitas, and it's stuff like that. Like I really want to try to do more often. I mean, I feel like I'm in a very blessed position that I can do these things, and I feel like that's what you should do when you are in a position to do stuff like that, is to help people out. So we did the shirt, man, and I was really blown away by how much people supported it and got on board with it and spread the word about it. And we just printed out another line of or the same shirt, but another batch of the shirts, and we're gonna get all that money to them again, man. So it's really great.
So Kevin, do you have any supporters out there? Anybody you'd like to shout out right now?
Yeah, I gotta thank all my sponsors: Triumph United, Osiris, Muay Thai Addicts, Action Pro Gear. Can't Stop Crazy. They're not my sponsor. They're just my boys. Gotta thank Lion Fight for doing everything they're doing, for believing in me from day one, from coming back from my surgery. And when there was a lot of questions still up in the air, they really believed in me. And I can't thank them enough. And I'm really happy and grateful to be a part of their organization. Everybody at CSA, Kieran, all my coaches up there, all my friends and training partners, man, I couldn't thank anyone enough for all that. And my fans, man, you guys are what keep me going when things get rough. When I get a message from somebody telling me that I inspire them or what I've done helps them, man, that's what gets me out of bed when I got a blown out ACL and or a busted rib, and I'm like, I can't even breathe. How am I gonna fight? It's knowing that there's people out there that look up to me and that I help or inspire in some way. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, man.
You're the man, Kevin.
Thank you.
That's great. That's awesome.
We're good. Cool. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for doing it, man.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you next time, and we'll look out for you on the next line fight.
All right, cool, man.
Great. Thanks.
All right.
All right.